I stepped into the yacht club 4 months ago dressed in a jacket I'd purchased just for the event. Not borrowed, purchased. My grandparents' 50th anniversary celebration. A major milestone for them. Packed with their colleagues. The entire extended clan. I planned to make an appearance, grin through it. Slip out early. Straightforward. Grandma spotted me first. She let out a holy smokes, he actually came. And then turned to her buddies, declaring they each owed her $50. $50. They'd wagered on whether I'd dare show my face. The room erupted in laughter, like it was the greatest joke ever told. Grandpa took the stage with his glass and proclaimed to everyone that I was their letdown, pointing straight at me, 42 years old and supposedly crashing on a couch. My cousin Liam jumped in right away, quipping, "I'm still riding my bike like I'm 14. My sister Nora piled on, saying they'd been telling folks I was on parole because it sounded better than jobless again. More chuckles. So many chuckles. Grandma turned to her knitting circle and mentioned I'd applied to work at a coffee shop last month. At my age, she stressed it just like that, as if I were some failed lab project. My Uncle Sean hollered across the hall that his nephew earned $15 an hour. 15. He repeated it for emphasis. My Aunt Fiona loudly whispered that my jacket was fake, still had the tag, clearly meant to be returned tomorrow. Everyone roared. Then Grandpa's old partner, invited as a guest, asked if I was the one squatting in that garage. Grandpa nodded, clarifying it wasn't even a proper flat, just a garage. The crowd found this hysterical. I sat at the table they'd shoved me at in the far corner, smiled, ate my fish, and stayed silent. Here's what nobody at that bash knew. Here's what makes this so much sweeter than they could ever grasp. I don't live in a garage. Haven't for 5 years. I own a loft, fully paid. I don't bike because I can't afford a car. I bike because I sold my truck 3 years ago, realizing I didn't need it, and the maintenance was money better invested. I don't sleep on a couch. I have a proper bed like anyone else. And that coffee shop application Grandma brought up? Never happened. She invented it. Or mixed me up with someone else. Or just needed fresh ammo to roast me with. They believe all this because 7 years ago, I was in a rough spot. Lost my gig. Was crashing with friends. A total wreck. They were brutal about it then, too. Every family gathering was a grilling session about my flops. Every call was a sermon. Every message was a jab. So I stopped sharing. When I got my act together, landed solid work, started saving and investing, bought my place, I kept it quiet. Why bother? They'd already labeled me. I let them think what they wanted. Wore ratty clothes to family events. Kept my beard a bit scruffy. Griped about bills I wasn't really paying. Mentioned bike paths and discount stores. I played their version of me because it was simpler than challenging their script, and because deep down, I knew a moment like this would come. The moment they'd need something from me. The moment their tale of pitiful me would smash into reality. That moment hit about 12 hours after the party wrapped. My phone went wild. First Grandma, then Grandpa, then Liam, then Nora, then both my uncle and aunt. Texts, calls, 287 messages when I checked. Answer, please. We're in deep trouble. We're sorry. Call us back. This is critical. We screwed up, please. I didn't pick up. Watched the messages stack and felt nothing but a strange calm. They were freaking out. Real panic. The kind that hits when you realize you've torched your bond with the one person who could bail you out. See, what nobody mentioned at that party was how they could afford that yacht club. How they could keep their condo. How Grandpa's shop hasn't gone under. 9 years ago, when I was actually doing fine before my life tanked, I co-signed their shop loan. Grandpa needed it to grow. The bank wouldn't approve without a co-signer due to his spotty credit. I was young, naive, wanted to support my family. So I signed. Then, I hit my low point. I pulled back. They stopped asking about my life except to tear it down. The loan faded into the background. I assumed they were handling payments, managing their business, whatever. I had my own mess. What I didn't know until 3 days before their anniversary bash was that Grandpa had been skimping on payments for a year. The shop was struggling. He'd been juggling funds, cutting corners, barely staying afloat. The bank had enough. They wanted their money, all of it. And since I was the co-signer, they'd come after me if Grandpa couldn't pay. I found out because the bank called me. Not Grandpa, the bank. They'd been chasing him for weeks, and he'd dodged them. So they turned to me, the co-signer, the fallback, the one legally on the hook if the main borrower failed. The sum was hefty. Not quite 7 figures, but enough to ruin most people's finances. For Grandpa's shop, it meant bankruptcy. For their condo, refinance to prop up the shop, it meant foreclosure. For their whole life, it meant losing everything they'd built over 50 years. I told the bank I'd need a week to go over the documents and weigh my options. They gave me 3 weeks. That was 4 months ago. The party was smack in the middle of that window. I went knowing their predicament, knowing they didn't know I knew, knowing they'd soon have to come clean, have to ask for help, have to admit they needed their failure. And then they shamed me in front of everyone. They mocked me, laughed at me, made me the punchline of their golden anniversary. They bet cash on whether I'd show, called me a loser to their pals, spun tales about coffee shop applications and fake jackets, made sure every person there knew I was the family flop. So now they're scrambling because the bank's deadline is looming, because Grandpa finally told Grandma what's up, because they know I'm the co-signer and they need me to either pay up or play ball with their fix, because someone in their frantic huddle likely pointed out they just spent an entire night publicly shredding any goodwill I had left. The messages keep pouring in. Liam sent a long text claiming it was all in fun, just jokes, and I'm too thin-skinned. Nora called 7 times, leaving voicemails about a family crisis. Urgent. Call back. Grandma's texts shifted from bossy to begging. Grandpa hasn't texted, which is somehow worse. I'm not answering. Not yet. Let them stew. Let them wonder. Let them feel as helpless and humiliated as I did at that corner table, listening to a room full of people laugh at my fake failures. They want to talk family crisis now. Fine, we'll talk, but on my terms. And those terms will be nothing like what they expect. Because here's the deal, they don't get it yet. I've been waiting for this. Not this exact mess, but something like it. Some moment when they need me and have to face who I really am versus who they decided I was. I've spent 7 years building a life they know nothing about, letting them believe their fiction while I wrote my truth. Now their fictions hit reality, and they're realizing too late they bet on the wrong cousin. So yeah, my phone's a war zone. My family's losing it. And I'm chilling in my paid-off loft, reading their frantic texts, plotting my next move. Update 1. Update 1. The silence held for 6 days. 6 glorious days of watching my phone glow with increasingly wild messages while I went about my real life. Work, runs, errands, late-night hikes. Just living the life they don't know exists. The messages got crazier. Grandma went from ordering to pleading to furious to pleading again. Texts saying I'm acting like a kid, that family doesn't hold grudges, that she didn't raise me to be spiteful. Bold words from the woman who took bets on my attendance. Liam tried the cousin card, saying we gotta stick together, that he just went along with the jokes because everyone was laughing. Nora sent voicemails sobbing about how scared Grandma is, how Grandpa isn't sleeping, how I'm ripping the family apart over a few quips. A few quips. That's what they call it. Uncle Sean sent one text. The family needs me to man up. I laughed out loud. The same uncle who broadcast my supposed wage to strangers wants to lecture me on manhood. But the real twist came from Grandpa. No texts, no calls. Instead, he showed up at my old garage, the one I haven't lived in for 5 years. Knocked for 25 minutes per my old neighbor, who I'm still cool with, and who texted me about this odd scene. Grandpa told the current tenant he was looking for his grandson, that it was a family emergency, that he needed me. The tenant, bless them, said they didn't know me and shut the door. Grandpa tried leaving a note. My neighbor caught him in the stairwell, explained I moved out years ago. No forwarding address. Maybe try texting like a normal person. Grandpa got heated, said I wasn't answering, that it was urgent, that he had to find me. My neighbor, who knows my real address but wouldn't spill, suggested Grandpa try online. Grandpa doesn't do online. Never has. Too traditional. This told me everything. They were desperate enough to hunt me down, but not desperate enough to face what they'd done. They wanted to corner me, pressure me in person, thinking it'd work better than texts. They were scheming, plotting, trying to manipulate me into saving them. So I responded, but on my schedule, my rules. Texted Grandma first. Short message. Said I'd been swamped with work. Just saw the texts. Asked what was so urgent. Played clueless. She called in 20 seconds. I let it go to voicemail. She left a 6-minute message, a total meltdown. Said Grandpa was in deep trouble. Issues with the shop loan. Family needs to pull together. She knew I'd had a tough time, but this was bigger than my problems. They'd explain if I came for lunch. Said Nora was cooking my favorite dish. Said please at least 5 times. My favorite dish. Like tacos would erase being called a letdown in front of 60 people. I waited 3 hours, texted back. Said I couldn't do lunch, but could meet Grandpa at the electronics store on Carver Avenue on Sunday morning. 10 a.m. public spot. Neutral territory. Not their condo where they could gang up. Not a cafe where they could make a scene. An electronics store where people focus on gadgets and ignore family drama. Grandma texted back instantly, asking why not lunch? Why an electronics store? Why Sunday when this was urgent? I didn't reply. Left her on read. Sunday came. I arrived at 10:10. Made him wait. Grandpa stood by the speaker aisle, looking out of place in his loafers and polo. He's not a tech guy. Couldn't tell a USB from a power cord. Seeing him there, awkward, waiting for me, it was almost enough. He saw me, started approaching. I held up a hand, pointed to the camera section. More open, fewer people. He looked puzzled but followed. We stood between tripods and lens cases. The holiday shopping season was picking up, a few customers around, but none close enough to eavesdrop. Perfect. Grandpa started talking before I could. Said he was glad I met him, that we needed to talk shop issues, that there were loan complications. Said it like I didn't already know, like the bank hadn't filled me in, like I hadn't spent weeks prepping for this. I asked what complications. Made him spell it out. He stumbled through a story about revenue dips, surprise costs, the bank being strict on terms. Said he'd been trying to sort it out, but they wanted full payment. Needed to know if I'd help as co-signer, maybe back him with the bank, maybe rework the loan. I stared, silent, let it hang. He kept going. Said things had been strained between us lately. Lately, like 7 years is lately. Said the anniversary party got out of hand. Everyone was tipsy, families tease. I shouldn't take it to heart. Said Grandma was worried I'd take offense when none was intended. None intended. $50 bets, public shaming, fake coffee shop stories, but none intended. I asked if he thought I still lived in that garage. He blinked. What? I repeated it. Did he really think I was in that garage? Said he didn't know where I lived, that I'd been so secretive lately, never shared anything. Said it like it was my fault, like I created the gap. I asked why he thought that was. Why did I stop sharing? He got defensive. Said families hit rough spots. I'd had my issues, they tried to support me, but I pushed them away. Said they only wanted what was best. I asked if humiliating me publicly was best. If betting on my attendance was supportive. If telling his partner I lived in a garage was helpful. He said I was twisting it. It wasn't like that. Everyone was just having fun, and I was making it something it wasn't. Said I'd always been too touchy, too quick to get upset, needed to laugh at myself. There it was. I was too touchy. Always my problem, not theirs. They weren't harsh. I was just too soft for normal family stuff. I told him I didn't live in a garage. Owned a loft, paid off for 4 years. Didn't bike because I couldn't afford a car, sold my truck, invested the cash. Never applied to a coffee shop. Had a steady job for 5 years, saved smart, invested well. He stared like I was speaking gibberish. His face cycled through confusion, disbelief, maybe anger. Asked why I didn't tell them. Why let them think I was struggling? I asked why it mattered. Why did they need my life's details when all they did was tear them apart? What would they have done differently if they knew? Respected me more? Treated me better? Or just found new things to mock? He had no answer. Just looked at me like I was a stranger. I said I'd think about the loan, needed time to review options, would get back to him. He said time was tight. The bank's deadline was in 10 days. They could lose everything without my help. I said I got it. I'd be in touch. Walked away, left him by the tripods and lens cases. Halfway to my bike, my phone rang. Grandma. I answered. She was sobbing. Said Grandpa called her, couldn't believe what I'd told him, that I'd been hiding my life for years. Asked why I'd let them worry when I was fine. Said it was cruel, manipulative, made them look foolish. I asked if she remembered the anniversary party. The bets, the jokes, the public laughs. She said she did. I asked if she recalled the bet amount. She went quiet. I asked again, what did she win betting I wouldn't show? She said it wasn't like that, just a silly game, that she bet I'd show because she believed in me. Said I was twisting it to make them look bad. I told her the bank's deadline was in 10 days. I'd let them know my call before then. She talked faster, said we needed a family sit-down, to work it out together, that family sticks together. I asked where that loyalty was when she told her friends I was jobless. She said it was just talk. She was worried. Grandparents exaggerate when stressed. I said I'd be in touch and hung up. My phone's been chaos since. Liam texting I'm overreacting. Nora crying in calls about ruining the family. Uncle Sean sending nasty texts about letting pride wreck lives. Even Aunt Fiona chimed in, saying I should think about Grandma's health and stop being selfish. But here's the thing. I spent 7 years as their punching bag. 7 years letting them believe a lie because it was easier than fighting. 7 years building a life they didn't know while they mocked a fake me. Now they need me, and they're mad I'm not instantly caving. They don't want to apologize. They want me to forget. They don't want to own what they did. They want me to prioritize their crisis over my self-respect. They want the old family dynamic where they can treat me like dirt, and I take it because that's my role. I'm done with that role. They're starting to see I hold the cards. The bank deadline's in 9 days. I haven't decided what I'll do. Update 2. The family showdown happened on Tuesday, 5 days before the bank's deadline. I didn't agree to it. They just showed up at my loft. Yeah, they tracked me down. Nora hired some guy from her yoga class who does online searches for a side hustle. Gave him my name and old address, and he found my place in 8 hours. She bragged about it later, like stalking me was a badge of honor. I was prepping dinner when the intercom buzzed. The concierge said my grandparents, cousin, and sister were here. Did I want them up? I could have said no, told him to boot them, but I was curious. Curious to see if they'd apologize now, standing in my building, seeing proof I wasn't the loser they'd mocked for 7 years. So, I said let them up. They stepped off the elevator, and I watched from my doorway as they took in the polished floors, the sleek lighting, the kind of building you don't live in without real money. Grandma's face flickered through shock, confusion, settling on disbelief. Grandpa looked drained. Liam tried to act casual, but was clearly calculating. How's my cousin affording this? Nora looked pissed, like I'd betrayed her by having a better place than she thought. I let them in, didn't offer drinks, just stood in my living room with my paid-off furniture, my nice sound system, my actual life on display. Grandma started, saying we needed a family talk about the situation, that things got heated, everyone was stressed, saying stuff they didn't mean. Trying to steer the narrative, make it about stress, not their actions. I asked why they were really here. Grandpa said they'd been trying to reach me about the loan for over a week. Deadline's close. Needed to know if I'd help. Help. Like it was a simple favor, like I was being asked to pick up their groceries. I said I'd been thinking and had questions. Why would I help after the party? Liam cut in, said we should separate personal gripes from business, that the loan was a legal deal I signed 9 years ago, that the party was unrelated to my duty as co-signer. Trying to make it cold, logical, sidestepped the emotion to pressure me with obligation. I asked if he recalled saying I biked like a 14-year-old at the party. He said it was a joke, everyone was joking. I asked if he believed I biked because I couldn't afford a car, or if he said it for laughs. He paused, then said he didn't know how I got around, that I never shared anything. Said if I'd been open, they wouldn't have had to assume. There it was, the blame shift. My fault for being private. My fault they built a fake story about me and mocked it publicly. Nora said they wouldn't have worried if they'd known I was fine. Tried the caring sister act, said Grandma lost sleep over me for years, that finding out I was okay felt like betrayal. I asked how I betrayed them by keeping quiet when everything I shared got weaponized. She said that's unfair, families rib each other, it's love. Love. She said betting $50 on me showing up was love. Saying I was on parole was love. Mocking my fake poverty to strangers was love. Grandpa spoke up, said they didn't come to rehash the party, but to talk loan. Said he got that I was upset, but bigger things were at stake. His shop, their condo, 50 years of work. I asked why I should care. When I was struggling 7 years ago, couch surfing, barely surviving, where was their help? Where was family then? All I got was lectures, jabs, reminders I was failing. Grandma said they helped. Let me crash with them for 3 weeks, gave me cash, tried hooking me up with jobs. Listing it like evidence, like their bare minimum effort, then meant I owed them now. I said those 3 weeks were daily grillings about my screw-ups. The cash was $300 with a budgeting lecture. The jobs were Grandpa asking his buddies if they needed a handyman. They didn't help. They shamed me at my lowest and called it support. Liam said I was rewriting history, that they did what they could, that I was ungrateful, too proud to take help, too stubborn to hear advice. I asked if that's what he really thought, or just the story they told to justify treating me like trash. He said I was defensive, couldn't handle criticism without vilifying them. This was it, the moment they stood in my loft, seeing proof I'd succeeded without them, still insisting I was the problem. Too touchy, too proud, too stubborn. Never them. I said I'd decided on the loan. They went silent, leaned in. I said I'd studied the papers, talked to a lawyer, learned interesting things as co-signer. Grandpa's face shifted, he knew. I said I wasn't just liable if he defaulted. I had equal legal standing. I could negotiate with the bank, propose restructuring, or take over the loan entirely. Grandma asked what that meant. I said I could pay off the debt, and the loan would transfer to me. The shop and condo would be safe. Everything they feared losing would be secure. Nora smiled, said, "See, we knew you'd help. Family comes through." I wasn't done. I said taking over the loan wasn't just a favor. It meant ownership. The loan was tied to the shop and condo. If I paid it, I'd have legal claim to those assets until repaid. The shop would operate under my watch. The condo would have my name on it with theirs. Silence. Grandpa said that's not how it works. I couldn't take over. I showed him the lawyer's papers. The co-signer agreement from 9 years ago had clear language about obligation transfer and secured interests. Liam grabbed the papers, read them, paled. Asked if I'd own part of the shop. I said not own, but control until the debt settled. Major decisions needed my approval. Selling assets needed my sign-off. Uncle Sean, who'd been waiting outside because Nora texted him for backup, barged in. Demanded to know what was happening. Nora said I was trying to steal Grandpa's shop, using the loan to rob family. I corrected her. I was offering a solution, but it had a cost. Control, oversight, accountability. Things they never gave me because they never respected me enough. Sean yelled I had no right to hold the shop hostage. Called it blackmail, said Grandpa built it from scratch, and I was profiting off his work. I asked if he recalled mocking my wage at the party. He told me to move on. It was months ago. This was about the family's future. I said no, it's about consequences. 7 years of mockery catching up. Betting against me and losing. Treating me like garbage, then being shocked I didn't jump to save them. Grandma started crying, real tears, said she didn't get how I could be so cruel. Watched them lose everything over hurt feelings. Asked if she raised me to be vengeful. I asked if she raised me to be their party joke, their cautionary tale. She said that's unfair. I was taking it out of context. Grandpa asked what I wanted to make this go away. I said nothing would. They'd spent 7 years defining me, using that story to feel better about themselves, and now it crashed into reality, and they blamed me for it. He said I was unreasonable, letting anger cloud me, that I'd regret this when I calmed down. I said the deadline was in 5 days. They could accept my terms or face the bank alone, find another co-signer, scrape up the cash, figure it out. They started arguing, Liam calling me petty, Nora saying I was punishing their honesty, Sean saying I was wrecking the family over pride. Grandma kept crying. Grandpa stared like I was a stranger. But I am a stranger, because they never knew me. They knew their version, the failing cousin, the broke brother, the family shame. They loved that version, it made them feel better, justified their lives. Now they met the real me, who built a life while they weren't looking, who prepared for this. I told them to leave. They kept arguing. I opened the door, said again, leave. They filed out. Nora lingered, said I'd regret this, that family's all we have, and I was tossing it for nothing. I shut the door. My hands shook. Not fear, not nerves, pure adrenaline. This was real. They were seeing me. And they hated it because it meant they were wrong. The deadline's in 5 days. My phone's been quiet since. They're either regrouping or found another way. Either way, I'm done waiting, done hoping they'll get it, done expecting them to own their actions. They want to save their shop and condo. I'm offering away. But it means I have power, control, the ability to make them answer to me like they made me answer to them. And that might be worse for them than losing it all. Because losing it all makes them victims. Accepting my help means admitting I was never the failure they needed me to be. 5 days left. Let's see their choice. Final update. The deadline was Friday at 3 p.m. Thursday afternoon. Liam showed up at my office, a standard downtown co-working space. Not flashy, but legit. He somehow found it and walked into the lobby. The front desk pinged me. My cousin was downstairs, insisting on seeing me. I told them to send him to the meeting room on the 3rd floor. Open space, glass walls, people around if things got loud. He walked in looking wrecked. Said we needed to talk before the deadline, that he'd been up all night and had a proposal. I sat, waited. He said the family explored options. Other lenders, new co-signers, lawyers on the agreement. Nothing worked. The bank wouldn't budge. No one else would take the risk. Lawyers confirmed my lawyer's take on the obligation transfer. They were cornered. They needed me. And Liam, being Liam, thought he could tweak my terms. Said they'd take my help but wanted changes. Oversight on big shop decisions, not full control. My name on the condo, but as a secondary lien holder, repayment with interest on a set schedule. They wanted my help without the consequences. I asked who cooked this up. He said he did, with Grandpa and their lawyer. Grandma and Nora wanted to accept my terms, but Grandpa balked. Said he wouldn't hand his life's work to someone who disrespected family. Even now, facing ruin, Grandpa's ego wouldn't let him admit I had leverage, that I'd earned it, that his dismissal of me led here. I told Liam no, the terms stand. Take it or leave it. He said I was unfair, that my demands were punishment dressed as help, using their crisis to settle scores. I asked if he thought they deserved better than they gave me. He said the party was one evening. This was their whole lives, months of fallout for a few hours of jabs. Not proportional. I asked if he recalled the 7 years before. Every family meal where they grilled my failures, every call lecturing my choices, every holiday using me as a warning. Did he remember Grandma telling her knitting group I'd end up on the streets? Or Grandpa at Christmas saying at least Liam and Nora turned out okay? He said families say tough things, grandparents worry. It comes out wrong. I was clinging to resentment instead of moving on like normal people. Normal. He wanted me to be normal, to forgive without apology, help without acknowledgement, erase 7 years because it suited them. I said the deadline was tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Accept my terms by 2 p.m., I'd have papers ready. Otherwise, they face the bank alone. He asked what happens if they refuse, let it collapse. I said they'd lose the shop, probably the condo. Grandpa would go bankrupt. Shop assets would be sold off. The condo, refinanced for the shop, would foreclose. They'd be renting, starting over at their age. He said I'd be hit too. The debt would tank my credit. I said I was ready, had savings to handle it, my credit would recover. Could they recover at their age, with their finances? He stared, said he didn't know me anymore, that the cousin he grew up with wouldn't hold family hostage. I said he never knew that cousin. That cousin was too young, too trusting to see what this family was. The person here now learned, adapted, became someone who wouldn't be used and tossed. He left without a word. I went back to work, focused on my job. Let them sweat. Friday morning, Grandma texted. Please call. I didn't. 1 p.m., Nora showed up at my office. Front desk called. I said I was in meetings. She left a note. We'll accept your terms, but Grandma wants to talk first. Please. 2 p.m., Grandpa called. I answered. Said they'd sign, no choice. But I needed to understand what I was doing to the family, breaking bonds that couldn't be fixed, choosing control over family, taking his shop via legal tricks. I asked if he remembered asking me to co-sign 9 years ago, if he recalled me trusting him enough to sign. He said that was different, family helping family when we were on good terms. I said exactly. When he respected me, he had no issue asking for help. But when I struggled, I became the family joke, the failure, the letdown. Now our roles flipped, and he was feeling what I did for 7 years. He said I'd turned cruel, that their actions didn't justify this retaliation. I said I wasn't retaliating, I was helping, but with conditions, judgment, reminders of my position, just like they helped me. He hung up. 10 minutes later, Grandma called, calmer than expected. Said they'd accept my terms. Grandpa was at the lawyers signing preliminary papers. Everything ready by 2 o'clock. Asked if I was happy, if I got what I wanted. I asked what she thought I wanted. She said power, control, revenge for feeling small. I said no, I wanted them to see me, the real me, not their story. And the only way was to force it, to make them face who I'd become. She asked if it was worth it, wrecking the family over pride. I said they wrecked it years ago when they decided I was disposable, when my struggles were their entertainment, when they made me a caricature. She said she didn't raise me like this. I said she stopped raising me at 35, wrote me off, saw me as a problem, not a grandson. Whoever I am now, she doesn't get credit. Papers arrived at 2:05. E-signatures via the lawyer. Loan obligation transfer. My name on shop documents as controlling stakeholder until paid. Lien on the condo, payment schedule with penalties for missed payments. All legal, all binding. Reviewed with my lawyer via call. Everything checked out. Signed at 2:30. The shop's under my oversight. Major decisions need my okay. Asset sales need my signature. The condo's deed has my name with foreclosure rights if payments lapse. Grandpa's life's work is tied to me until every dollar's repaid with interest. And the kicker, the interest rate I set is higher than the original loan. Legal, but steep. Minimum payments mean 15 years to clear. 15 years of me in charge. 15 years of them answering to me. 15 years of remembering the grandson they mocked at their golden anniversary now owns their financial fate. That night, I drove to their condo, the one with my name on it. Knocked. Grandpa answered, didn't invite me in, stood in the doorway. I said I wanted to inspect the property, securing my investment. He said it wasn't needed. I said it was. Agreement gave me inspection rights. He could let me in, or I'd schedule it via the lawyer. He stepped aside. I walked through. The living room where they'd had endless family dinners whispering about my failures. The kitchen where Grandma called her friends about my flops. The study where Grandpa ran his shop, now under my control. Grandma sat in the living room, didn't look at me. Nora was there, glaring with pure venom. Liam wasn't, said he wanted no part of this. I finished, told Grandpa it looked fine, that I'd need quarterly shop financials. Expenses over $7,000 need my approval. Missed payments would bring harsh penalties. He asked if I was enjoying this. I said yes. For 7 years, I'd dreamed of this, a moment they'd have to respect me, treat me like I mattered. And it was as good as I'd hoped. Grandma looked up, asked what I wanted. What would end this? I said nothing. They created this by treating me like trash while I became someone they'd answer to. They bet against me at their party. $50 I wouldn't show. I showed up and won. The cost wasn't $50, it was everything. Nora said I was destroying the family. I said no, I was holding them accountable. There's a difference. I left, drove home, sat in my loft, the one they just learned about. The life they just found while mocking a fake me. My phone's been nonstop since. Distant relatives I haven't spoken to in years, suddenly preaching family unity. Grandpa's friends asking if we can sort it out. Far-off cousins taking sides. Aunt Fiona sent a long text about punishing people who love me. Uncle Sean said I'd turned ugly, vindictive. But they don't get it. I didn't turn into this. I was always this. I hid it while I built my life, while I waited for them to need me like I needed them. They humiliated me at their party because they thought I was nothing. Thought the failing grandson would take it like always. Thought their story of me was real. Now they know it wasn't. Now they're living with the consequences of betting against me. And those consequences will last 15 years if they're lucky, longer if they slip. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Because for the first time in 7 years, they're seeing me. Really seeing me. And they hate it because it means they were wrong about everything. I walked into that party in a tagged jacket, playing their game one last time. I walked out knowing their world was crumbling and mine was growing. They thought they were mocking their failure. They were mocking their own future. 42 and crashing on a couch? Try 42 and holding your condo's deed. Still biking. Try putting my name on everything you built. Jobless again. Try employed as your overseer. They owe me more than $50 now.